Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Varanus podcast on the Trap Talk Reptile Network. Tonight, I've got a guest that needs no introduction, a familiar face on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, Ryan Young. How we doing, mate?
Good, yourself?
All
Or I guess
good,
you would
mate.
go with cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Yes.
Yes.
Let's not talk. Let's not start about who's right and who's wrong when it comes to the English language.
Oh man, you guys might have started it, but we definitely, put
I
our
don't know.
stamp on it.
Over here, they learn American English because it's easier, believe it or not. So forever the wife's saying, "Oh, can you put your pants on?" or "Where's my pants?" I've got them on. They're like, we call pants as in like boxer shorts, not like
Yeah.
long trousers. Stuff like that. Trash. What do you call it? Trash, not rubbish. I don't know.
Yep. Listen, when I talk to Australians and Europeans, even though we're speaking the same language, it takes me a minute to process what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. I think you dumbed it down a bit, the Americans, which
That's fine.
English isn't easy. English isn't the easiest language. I can't speak
No.
English properly, so it's nice to have it a bit more simple. So, what's going on, mate? How was
Just coming out of the cycling period and got stuff together and hoping for ovulations and that kind of, it's all come
all
down to
go?
this, so to speak.
All go. Any new species this year?
I'm trying to. Obviously, I've failed to do roughies for a few years, so I'm trying those
Hmm.
still. Got a couple scrub pythons together I haven't bred, so we'll see. Hopefully.
Any reason you haven't had as much success with the Australian stuff? I think you've said it before. Compared to the
I
Indians, just the way you've got things set up, or
Yeah, when I first started breeding pythons, I mostly did Australian stuff. And so the way I fed and the way I cycled was a little different. When I started getting more into trying to breed Indo stuff, I altered how I did things, and I do believe it has had a negative effect on my consistency with Australian species.
so.
So.
What's the main difference do you think between the two?
I think just mostly the feeding. Like the Australian stuff, I would feed heavy in the summer and not at all during the cooling period. And the Indo stuff is the opposite. Don't feed it during the summer and feed it hard during the cycle. And that seems
It's
to
just
be
almost the
that
opposite.
really upped my consistency with the Indo stuff, but it really tanked my consistency with the Australian stuff. So
What
now I'm trying to just remind myself to do the Australian stuff the old way and the Indo stuff the new way, so to speak. And but I haven't quite got it all back on track. So we'll see
do
how
you
it
keep
goes.
them any differently, as in and the setups, or they all kept the same in your room?
No, I try to position some of the species, like some of the Australian species, I try to position them closer to the floor because it's colder. So they can, like, my lowest temperature that I set my thermostat at in the winter is 70 degrees, but on the floor, that probably looks more like 67 to, 70. So I just try to take that in mind. So I'll put like womas and stuff down by the floor, blackheads, stuff that, gets a harder cycle in nature than the Indo stuff. And
Yeah.
it seems to work out.
How are you? Heat? Is it just ambient you do in your room, or you doing? I know you're not a fan of radiators.
Well, no, it's just a tool it's a great tool if you're willing to do the work to use it. I
Right.
just for me the way I do things with many snakes I have, it's just too much work to try to regulate a bunch of heat panels. And so I found for me that it was far better to just use I mean I'm dumbing it down if anything. I just use ceramic heat emitters and
Okay.
they're on for 12 hours, off for 12 hours if I want them to be, and not all of them, usually just gravid females. So
Right. And do you
basically
heat the
I
room?
have yeah, so I heat the room is the main focus. So I
Yeah.
use oil filled heaters to heat the room.
Yeah. That's interesting. So what Australian stuff have you got left? So as I don't know if people know, people should know. You've obviously got this famous list that I want to get into a little bit.
Well, I don't know if it's I guess it's
Let's
not really a famous list. It's just a when I
well,
was trying to I guess compare myself to people I respected. I
Yeah.
basically, well, at one point I had a question. Well, how many python species actually is there? And so
Yeah.
I just made a spreadsheet, and then I included stuff. There's obviously there's taxonomic things that have yet to be done, but you
You
kind of
include it.
know what. Yeah, so I've got that in there, and then some stuff is subjective, whether you believe some taxonomists or others and stuff. So I made that list first, and then the first person I put on my spreadsheet was the Barkers because they were the people I looked up to the most. Yep, and they had bred the most species as far as anybody could tell, and so I just went down the list and put a check mark for, or well, I just put a one basically, and then it calculated at the bottom, how many
How many you got
species they had bred, and they were at like 32, I believe. And so I was like, oh, interesting. And at the time, I think when I made the list, I think I was in the, I don't know, 18 to 22 range of species I had bred. And
Yeah.
I started to realize that a lot of the people that I really respected, there's not very many people that have bred over 20 species of python. And so you realize real quick, like, and the Barkers were the only ones that had bred over 30, as far as I could tell.
Was that just the more tricky Indonesian stuff, or was there some stuff that sort of shocked you on there that people just hadn't been able to breed?
No, I think what you realize is that most of the people that do this, they're really into, like, let's say you're into carpets. So you've bred, so like, Casey Lazick's a good friend of mine. He's bred a lot of stuff. I consider him an amazing python breeder. I got a lot of respect. I look up to him. But I think he's hovering in that 18 to 20 range. But it's
Yeah.
not because he couldn't breed other species. He was just
Just
focused on
focus.
certain things. And that's what you realize when you look across the board of people you respected over the years, is there's a lot of great python breeders, but most of them were fairly narrow in their focus. And
Yeah.
so to get to 20 species, you don't realize that's quite a bit actually. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I
Sure.
didn't realize that. I thought there would be a lot more people that had done that, and it didn't look like there was as many as you would think. So it
Um, did it change? Had you always had like a multi-species collection, or did the list change the way you sort of started focusing on stuff?
I'd always had a lot of species, but the list definitely, when you actually had a target to swing at, it kind of
Yeah.
changes your, once before you were like, well, they've bred more than anybody, but you didn't really know what does that look like.
Yeah.
And so when you actually put a number on it, and it was like, oh, now you got a target, and then you're looking at where you're at, and you're kind of like, huh, okay, maybe I should take this more serious, and make a run at it. And then some of the stuff, it's, you're not, there's stuff that it's going to be real hard for me to breed, that they did breed, and there's stuff that they'll never breed because it wasn't available when they were doing this at scale. So
Do you know what they are?
like they never did pygmies and brettles and inland carpets, that stuff didn't become roughies. That stuff didn't become available until they had, semi-retired and
Yeah.
focused down to mainly bloods and bulls and boas. So,
Yeah.
so I'm lucky in that regard because I have no doubt if they were still
Yeah.
actively trying to pad their numbers, they would be fully capable of doing that. So,
So, what's some of the species that they've done that you probably won't be able to do?
as far as I know, I don't know of any natal lenses in the country. They've done natal
Right.
lenses.
Yeah.
What else?
King Horneye, did they ever do them?
They kept King Horneye, but they never bred them.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That might be that's the one that's the most glaring. Oh, genetically, there looks to be two clades of water pythons. They've done one that, for all intents and purposes, isn't really available over here.
Right.
So, it's kind of, it's just like, but again, that's if you think there's two types of water pythons. So,
Yeah. You're gonna have to have like a basic list and then like an advanced list by the sounds of it.
Yeah. So if all of the potential species that I believe exist, there'll be I think around 67 species total.
Yeah.
And so
What was
there's probably I think there's probably like, five I'll probably never be able to do. Um, and then some stuff's going to get harder and harder and so my current goal is I'd like to my current goal is to get into the 40s and be
yeah?
that I'll be the only person in the 40s, so that'd be kind of cool. But
Do you
my long-term goal is to get to 50.
right? Do you know he's passed away now, Frank Schofield? I think he done
Uh,
pretty well with pythons. I don't know what his
yeah,
numbers.
talking to people that were close with him, it appears he was at 25.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know he's got.
Yeah,
I went
which
up to
is
him.
that's up there. Him and I believe Paul Harris is around that number.
Yeah,
Nick Mutton is I think a little bit ahead of that, and
yeah.
then VPI. So that's you're looking at four.
That's
That's
like a
basically
the
the top.
top
Yeah,
echelon. Yeah,
yeah.
interesting. What was the first species that you surpassed the Barkers with? So like when you sort of got one above,
Uh,
do you remember? Was it an easy one that they couldn't do, or
no,
one
I
that
think
they were
God, I want to say I bred when I bred Berms. That's when I passed them. But
right?
I believe, oh man, I believe it was Temur pythons that I tied them with. I'd have to look,
Yeah.
but it's
What's been the
Listen,
biggest?
I talked to Tracy quite a bit, and she's my biggest fan. She's
Mm,
cheering me on, so it's
gosh.
really nice to have that relationship with her and
So one day
support.
we will see Tracy Barker and Ryan Young podcast, is what you're telling me.
No, listen, I've been asked a million times to try to make that happen, and she has no interest. She's
Just old
just
school.
yeah, just not interested in that, and which is like I mean I guess I'm fortunate I get to just talk to her,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
definitely.
but
It's
yeah,
a
no, and as far as I'm concerned, I can whatever I'm gonna do in this hobby will never I'll never surpass them in my own. They're the benchmark to me. I think she bred 20 some species in 1 year, like and the numbers that she bred, I'll never come close to the numbers
right.
of stuff. So
The way you
they're
work your list is just as long as it comes out the egg. I think you remember you telling me.
yeah, it
As
has
long
to
as
hatch, come out, and live for a few minutes, I guess.
a few minutes. what's been the what's been the trickiest one out of that list, or any surprising ones that have taken a long time?
I earned Teamer pythons. That was definitely a test of patience, and it was probably my own fault. I don't think I fed them enough.
Yeah, people say that a lot with the T-malls. They
Yeah,
need
they've got a
smash.
pretty high metabolism, and I don't think the year I finally bred them, I fed her a lot
Yeah,
and big meals and a lot of meals, and then she went, and it seemed easy once she went, like it was
right.
nothing. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Once she ovulated, laid the eggs were perfect, eggs hatched. Like there was
Yeah.
absolutely no crazy
Have
mystique
you
other than
struggled with them before with like reabsorption and stuff? Have they
yeah.
got
I
got?
had I she was I think I tried pairing them up from the time they were 5 years old, and she didn't lay until she was 10 years old.
Interesting. I think the Barkers, I could maybe misquoting here, but they were always famous for saying things need to be a lot older than they were. I can't remember where I read it off the top of my head. Do you think that still holds true, or do you think that was just because of the animals that they were receiving at that time, probably taking a bit more time to acclimatize to captivity?
I mean, there's definitely, I believe, the bigger species probably benefit from being older. There's with pythons, it appears to be you can have two things. You can be small and old, or you can be big and young, and either
Mm,
one of those combinations can potentially get you eggs. You can be on the smaller side of what your species can reproduce at and be old, or you can
yeah,
be at the larger size of your species and be young and get eggs. I'm sure the best place to be is somewhere in the middle.
yeah.
A moderate age and a moderate size is probably the best
But
place for the species to be.
do you think some of these species need to be? I can't remember what the numbers. I don't want to say it was the Barkers, but maybe just the hobby mythology or whatever you want to call it of Timors needing to be over 8 years old or 10 years old for some other stuff?
I don't know. If memory serves me from talking to them, I think they accidentally did the higher food ratio thing. They had gotten if the I've talked to Dave about this on a drive, and I believe it had to do with they had gotten a huge amount of like jumbo frozen hamsters one year, and
Right.
they were just feeding them a bunch of hamsters, and so I don't know if I don't want to speak to what they did, but I
No,
believe it
no, no.
had something to do with they fed more than they probably normally would have, and maybe that was the key. But they did raise. I'm pretty sure she bred the F1s at a real young age. I think the F1s bred for them at like 2.5 or 3.
Yeah,
So
that's sort of my point. Is do you reckon it's they would have been wild caught ones coming in, those Timor pythons, for example? Do you think it's just the time it takes for the wild caught stuff to acclimatize captivity rather than it actually needing to be that old? As in
yeah,
when
I
you get
think
to your
yeah,
when you get to your
obviously they
F1,
can breed small, and like I said, I believe it's the if you grow them huge and they're young, you could probably have a shot at it. Or
yeah,
if you're going to keep them borderline size wise, like I did, then they got to
yeah.
be older.
How how new is cycle feeding? Because when I was into Python, maybe it was coming from the carpet Python side of things, where it was more like the temperature drop and then you sort of feed. But with the as you'll probably find with the Indonesian stuff, it seems to be a true food cycle. We get it with the monitors, going back to being the Varanus Vault podcast. A lot of that cycling is done a little bit with environmental, and then a lot of it is food cycling. Do you think that's where people haven't had the success with the Indo stuff previous? Or you
Well,
would
I
know
think a
more than
lot of
me.
the Indo stuff. I think the Indo stuff is a twofold problem. You had like obviously okay when the Barkers were one of the people that were most consistent at breeding Indo stuff, but they narrowed their focus at one point. And so
Right.
then, the hobby went all morph animal crazy, and the only Indo stuff, there was hardly any captive bred Indo stuff left.
Yeah.
So we basically had to start over. And
Right.
so we were starting over with wild caught stuff. And
Yeah.
and it can do great or it can do horribly. It just depends on the animal. But I do think it's more challenging to breed the wild stuff than the captive stuff for sure. I don't. There's no doubt about that. But
But do you
it's
think it's
not the impossible dream it used to be.
yeah? Do you think it's just like a different style? Like with I don't know, a lot of us come from maybe colubrids, which you do the bromation and then feeding after, and then the like you were saying before, the carpet pythons sort of fit into that. Um, where the Indo stuff. Do you call your Indo stuff at all, Ryan?
Yeah, I cool all of it the same.
Right.
But it's when I feed is really what matters. And some of the
Right.
Indo stuff, like I don't usually run basking spots, but during the winter, the cycle period, when I'm at my coldest cycling point, sometimes some of the Indo species, I'll just give them a basking spot of like 78 to 82 just to take the edge off for those
Yeah.
species.
And what's the nighttime drop, or is that it?
That would be the night, and the daytime is just 82. I think I have it set at 82.
You're calling the
So
Australian stuff a lot colder than that, are you? Down to the 60s, low 70s?
yeah, high 60s, low 70s.
Yeah.
But and so I think the Indo stuff was a twofold problem. We had mostly wild caught stuff we were trying to rebuild with, and then there wasn't. And the reality was there just wasn't that many people doing it.
Yeah.
So
That more
yeah, so
craze sort of.
it created a situation where there just wasn't many people trying to breed a white-lip python or even breeding ring pythons anymore, or any of these things that used to be relatively common occurrences for a 10-year period, 15-year period, just kind of got rare. And
Yeah.
so,
It was a,
and then you
it
had,
was a, oh,
and then you also have the fact that these are all southern hemisphere things. So when you take them, we're trying to cycle them during our winters, which is their summer. And so I
yeah.
think that takes a few years also to recalibrate their
Yeah.
internal clock to match yours.
Yeah. That's what I was sort of saying with some of this stuff being successful after like 5 years. I know my friend, she's got some Stimson pythons, I think it is, and they took a long time to come over. So yeah, I don't know. And it was a newer line. Maybe it takes a bit of time to rejig that round.
Yeah, I think it does. You know, sometimes when you get stuff, it's almost like if you can get it late in our summer, you can almost trick them into breeding that first year just by pounding them with food. But then after that, if it doesn't work, then it seems like you have to reset everything. But
Resale.
occasionally, you got a shot right when they come in, like to just try to overwhelm them with food and trigger their reproductive event. But if it seems like if you miss that initial window, then you got to kind of remind them. You got to, and that's where I think the food cycle helps. Is I think with the food cycle mixed with the temperature cycle, you can bring them into the northern hemisphere timeline faster than if you just fed them consistently the whole time.
So the temperature cycling thing doesn't really make sense for an Indonesian python. Do you think that's just more of like you're putting a hard stop to the metabolism, maybe, and then that increase in food is really what it is? Because these are all pretty equatorial pythons, where it's going to stay pretty consistent year round.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I can only say that it's what I've been doing for 20 something years, and it's hard to like. Okay, in my baby room, I have some chondros that I've raised from babies here that I won't put in my adult room. And in my baby room, I'll only cycle that room to like 75, 76, and only
Yeah,
for like a few, 6 weeks versus, 3 months in the big
yeah,
room. And that's enough to trigger the chondros to lay eggs. So,
yeah,
but the cycle definitely seems to give you more predictable results and kind of bunch up your clutches. Whereas if you did completely nothing and
yeah.
just food cycled, I don't know. Well, for one, I've never done it, so I would hate to advise somebody
Probably
to,
probably like what we see with the monitors here indoors, for example, which aren't getting any sort of temperature drop. They're pretty much all just food cycling. You just get them all year going at different. You can't really bunch them up that
yeah,
much unless you do like a hard. So like I try and do like a hard cycle of stopping them all feeding at once and then slamming them with food. But it is just a food cycle. But it's not as consistent as I think you'd find with pythons. So
yeah. No,
that's
there's
just
definitely stuff. Some of the like the Halmahera scrubs, in my experience, when you start messing with the thermostat, it just turns them off. Like they stop eating, they're
yeah.
not happy. The Biox scrubs are the same way. Within a
Might
week
probably be
of
the worst. Yeah, because they're
yeah,
right on the
within
equator.
yeah, within a week of touching that thermostat, they're just like done. They don't want
You're
to
right.
eat anymore. They're pouting. You know, and
Yeah,
so there's definitely some animals that you can tell they're not happy with the temperature manipulation.
yeah. But a good way of getting them all your clutches at once, which is
Yeah,
important for you when you're doing so much traveling and stuff that you do. You can sort of guess
yeah,
it.
it definitely it's nice to get it all somewhat
Yeah,
bunched up,
yeah,
but
yeah, for
it
sure.
is even it's amazing when I look back on clutches and I'm like I've cycled for probably 15 years. My cycle date start has been October 1st, and my cycle date stop has been December 31st. Or January 1st. Like I'm really consistent in my cycle, and yet I can look back and see clutches all like it's the clutches still aren't always consistent even though my temperature cycling is exactly consistent, and they
Mm,
still I've had females that are laid 2 months 4 months difference the same snake.
yeah,
So and then I've had females that'll lay within a day, back to back years. So it just so I think the temperature cycling is probably more for my benefit as far as it's just what I feel like I got to do.
yeah.
So
I just think with the Indo stuff, whether it's more just like you're slowing that metabolism down, and then when you bring them up and the shock of that extra food, um, is really what it's doing. Where the temperature's not really, they're not saying it as like a different season. I don't know. I guess it's tied in Indo. It's probably tied to the wet season and the drier season,
yeah, it's
where there's
probably
probably
more just like it's cloudier. Maybe they don't have
yeah,
as many basking opportunities.
and maybe less food around, and then there's an influx of food.
Yeah.
Where with the carpet python stuff, they really do need a big drop. Do you think they need their experience in that? In
Like
terms
I was never able to breed Brettles pythons until I did like a real, you know,
really, yeah, it gets cold there, mind.
yeah, gave them a pretty hard cycle. Like I built a little like box out in my garage to put
Yeah,
them in so they could get, you know, I think I had it set at like 58 for the coldest, you know. It'd still
yeah,
get warm during the day in the 70s, but and then they would breed consistently and very reliably, but
they need,
um,
yeah,
and the inland carpets seem to you know be much more consistent. I've done them both ways, but the fecundity and the consistency was far better the cold, you know, when I did that. So
Do you need to give the Indo stuff more food than you do the Australian stuff? Do you think it's more important, or about the same? You feed everything the same?
um I think it's I don't know if you can do like a blanket because I think you've got like white lips and ring pythons probably have a little bit more of a metabolism than a carpet python. And
Right.
so I think the amount of food that I would feed a white lip to try to get it to ovulate would probably be too much for a carpet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't really cross it over. It's a completely different snake, really, isn't it? No,
Yeah,
that's
so you
interesting.
kind of it's kind of a you know it's a choreographed dance every year trying to figure out how much to feed each you know snake and when and try you know and I think the older I get, the crappier my gray matter gets. It's it's harder to it's
Well,
harder
it
for
must
me
be.
to remember when do I do this with what like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I find that the same, mate. I was going to say then.
So I find that I kind of I get pretty consistent at breeding a few things, and then after a couple years, I'm like, oh, I need to pay attention to these other things. I've gotten decent at this, but it's come at the expense of those other things, and so I find myself having to kind of narrow my focus to you know different groups if that's my goal to breed them. So
Yeah. During the morph craze or whatever you want to say, the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, did you just continue to breed some of these different species? I know you obviously were doing the royals and you had your hand in like the morph side of it as well. Um, did you find the market wasn't there for some of these peculiar snakes? Everyone was just focused on the morphs, or did you have no problems?
it depend. Like the last time I bred Savu pythons, I couldn't give them away. Like I was literally selling them to the pet store in town for $50
Yeah, it's
because
crazy. Eh?
nobody. And then within 5 years, you know, they were $2,000. So there was some
Yeah,
stuff that I couldn't give away. The first couple clutches of black white lips I had, there was not that much interest.
yeah,
The last two clutches I had was during the peak, so everybody wanted them. That was easy. So it just
yeah,
kind of ebbed and
until
flowed. But
yeah,
you know, I'm not trying to talk shit on the morph thing. I listen. My facility wouldn't exist. Me doing this for a living would never have happened if it wasn't for those times. So
yeah.
I'll never knock those as far as that goes. But I never just had. I always
It
had
just
other stuff.
yeah, I was going to say it just became a bit, and I was guilty of it as well. With even with the carpets of becoming hyper focused on it, rather than like
Yeah.
before that, it was in the I was just getting into it in the early 2000s. Even it was like pretty impressive just to keep some of this stuff alive, some of these
Oh
these
yeah.
species, white lips and stuff, and that was the main focus. But you would talk to each other about how long how long have you kept that alive for? Has it got any problems with it? And then it becomes so breeder focused on the morph side of it, and I think just we lost a bit of the I don't know the hobby a little bit. It seems to be coming out of it a bit now, but it just becomes
Yeah.
so
It's
hyper focused.
Yeah, the hobby's always kind of a circle. There's species that I have right now that nobody probably cares about, and 15 years from now, everybody will stop doing it. And then if I'm still doing it and I produce them, people will be like, "What's that? I haven't even heard of that." You know, it's just
Yeah,
like I said with the Savu thing in the 90s. The Savus, everybody was breeding Savus. They were rare. Then they got real cheap. Everybody stopped doing it. And
yeah.
then when I was caught the tail end of that, nobody cared. And then it
Well,
went full circle. Everybody stopped. Ring pythons. I bought my first pair of ring pythons for $250 for the pair, and
yeah,
nobody cared. And then you get down to like basically one person was keeping it going, and then everybody wants something, and so then it kind of builds up a quasi pyramid thing again. Price goes crazy. A bunch of people get it, and I think that's probably going to be even exacerbated more now with the the kind of influencer. It's funny because I can't remember what it was. A few years ago, I had a bunch of interest in something, and I was like, "What? Where did this interest come from?" And then somebody was like, "Oh yeah, like 3 people did YouTube videos on whatever it was," and then it was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, that explains it." So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and that's fine. People. I firmly believe you got to keep a lot of things to find what you really, really like.
For sure. Yeah. 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 There's a
And
big.
I've gotten some grief. Some people think that because I've bred some species and then I don't keep them anymore, and I've had people basically insinuate that's kind of shallow and not not becoming of a proper breeder or whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't even know if I'm gonna like something until I keep it. So
No.
it,
No. Yeah. Some stuff's just awful to keep. Like it's just not your thing at the end of the day. It's someone else's thing. Blood pythons for me. I can't stand blood pythons personally. It's a nightmare working with the ones here, and then that's the Barker's thing, and they've kept all those different types of
no,
pythons, and that's the one that Tracy landed on. So it's horses for courses, really, isn't it?
yeah, no, it's a weird, everybody's got their own thing. Some stuff that I don't. My one of my good friends, ring pythons are his favorite thing, and I mean, I don't think they're terrible, but they're not. They're definitely
Yeah,
not my favorite. So it's just, but I like white lips, which are very similar, but yet a little bit different. And he doesn't like the white lips as much as the rings. So it's just kind of,
interesting. Yeah,
it's just funny how everybody's got their own little what blows their
Yeesh.
skirt up, and that's fine.
Yeah, 100%. It's just, yeah, it has obviously coming now and being at the farm here, it has a knock-on effect when you start speaking to like the owners over here. Savu pythons, for example, they there's wild caught quota for them. Yet because the prices drop so much, they stop collecting them, and then the person on Savu stopped collecting them.
Yep.
So it has like a real knock-on effect now of stuff. Same with Clastolepus, I think you've alluded to. There's a wild caught quota of them of a tiny number now because they just weren't getting exported anymore, and they look every year at the numbers of how many's been exported, and if the exports aren't there, then they reduce the quota for them basically.
Yeah, because they
So
read into that they're rare, and so they're
no, not even read. Just I don't know why they do it really, but yeah, if they're not exporting the numbers, they just seem to like reducing the number, whether it's like a political thing of them having done well, or I don't know why they just can't keep the numbers the same. But yeah, if they're not getting the exports, they'll cut the numbers down. So
I just assumed they would read into that and go, "Oh, they're not exporting very many of them. Maybe that's because they're not as common or something." But
no, same with Varanus boma is a tree monitor. It's the rarest tree monitor now. It's never been particularly recent. It's not rare. It's on from Waigia, which is the biggest island in Raja Ampat, and it covers the whole of that island. But at the same time that they were sort of described or discovered, you had McRae and Risingrai, which is a yellow monitor and a blue
yeah, so they
monitor.
were just kind of
Yeah,
the.
nobody was asking for a black. There's so many black and yellow monitor lizards. So
Yep.
I speak to Bud, and he's like, "Why didn't you get a load of these?" He's like, "Oh, no, nobody was asking for them." And so there obviously needs to be captive bred F2. So the founding stock was very small because he didn't want to do a whole farm of Bomai, for example. He'd much rather get more McRae or more Risingrai. And then the quota for that reason is a lot slower, is a lot lower as well. That one does make sense. So the captive bred stuff, they work out your maximum production per year, and then that's obviously on the amount of founded animals. They've got a formula of how many of those will die, how many the success of the clutch. So if your found in stock is pretty low, then obviously your quota is going to be a bit low. But for the wild caught quota, it doesn't make sense in the same sort of way. But yeah, I don't know what I think this year. It's like 29 for Clastolepus, for example. I can't remember if that's for all the farms or if that was just per farm. But it's really low. It went down to 3 at one point, I think.
Yeah, well, and
So
then we have a weird phenomenon now where the people over there get to see the end user prices, and so
yeah,
then that's got to have an effect on what they. There's a trickle
yeah, oh
down
yeah,
to
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, massively. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, everyone's got MORPHMARKET on their phone now, so they
Yeah,
can
no, I
just
mean, that's, every time we go, oh, well, now the wild caughts, because I ran into that when I was breeding southern white lips. At a certain point, the wild ones were selling for what I was hoping to sell captive breds for. And so
yeah,
I'm like, well, what do I do in that situation? Because typically the wild one, if the wild one's a grand, then you're like, well, the captive one's got to be 1,500. There's got to
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
something to differentiate that. But at what point does that get like, okay, with like Bull and I, for example, if the wild one's 10 grand, what the hell do you sell a captive one for? Like
Yeah. We got
it doesn't make
the
any
same
sense. At a certain point,
same issue
it's too.
with tree monitors as well. The ones that come in and then people are captive breeding them. It's like exactly the same price in the UK for a long time. It's like, well,
Yeah.
this has never happened. So yeah, I don't know how that works itself out. I guess eventually it should do, but yeah, I think it just keeps the prices high, like you've seen with Bolins. Just from no matter what it is, if it's a Bolins, it keeps the prices high, and obviously there's a limit to how much you can charge. But I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I don't know if somebody in the U.S. produced like 100 of them. What would that do? Would that drive the price down, or would it stay the same? I don't know. It just seems like a weird.
depends how much you've got a good market. I think in the US, in the UK, for example, you do well with. I did really well with yellow tree monitors, and like I was having to cut my own prices on them just because of how successful. That's a tiny market. I don't know how many Boland's pythons the US could absorb. I guess it works more on that factor
Yeah,
rather
well,
than
that happens here. You can be the victim of your own success here too.
yeah,
I wouldn't like I've said with a lot of these species, I wouldn't want to have five clutches of a lot of these things. One clutch
yeah,
is adequate. That's enough. It takes me a year to sell one clutch. So
yeah,
what do you do
yeah,
with
for sure.
five clutches?
Yeah, and then obviously you've got ebbs and flows in the actual wider market itself. Even with the morph side of things, that when that's booming, it seems to sort of pick up on the other side. Or I know a lot of people from that royal market seem to be jumping into green tree pythons now, by the sounds of it. So
Yeah, I don't know how many ball python guys are switching, but I'm sure there's guys that are. So,
yeah, I think they'll have a
so.
bit of a shock coming from royals to green trees, maybe.
Yeah, it's a different animal for sure.
Yeah. So another thing we're both pretty passionate about is keeping stuff as pure as we can. How do
Ah,
you
yes.
how do you see that in when it comes maybe green tree pythons? I know I'm pretty adamant here at the farm that we keep everything completely pure, but then Bushmaster and Terraria did really well by crossing them even over here before they even got to the States. So how do you think that affects the hobby?
I mean, the stone cold reality in the chondro world is that most of the people don't care. Like,
Yeah,
the 10 or 20 years ago, it was they were all the same thing. Nobody cared, and then even when the science came out and proved people like me correct that no, these are different, they
yeah,
were like, oh well, we still don't care. So it just
yeah,
at the end of the day, I have. It's kind of a lonely world being into the pure stuff. I've got great chondro friends now, and they do what they do, and I do what I do, and it's fine. We can shoot the breeze and have a good time, and they're not going to change what they're doing. I'm not going to change what I'm doing, and I
yeah,
don't expect them to. And I just and the reality is people should do what they're into. If you want to do the hybrid design or whatever you want to call it stuff, then do it. I'm not going to
yeah.
sit here and tell you, anything.
No, I
Do
don't
what
think
you.
anyone can tell any. I just see it as why can you not just have one locality pair sat in that room of beautiful designer snakes or whatever you want to call them? Well,
Yeah, I
just to
mean
keep it.
the thing that always got me is I mean I've been in this a little while and I would see people posting pictures of like oh I'm breeding this this male that's got all this lineage and it's supposed to be a designer, it's supposed to be a great snake, and then here it is breeding like an amazing female Biok, an amazing Maruki or Maroke female, or
Wow, okay.
an amazing Aru female or something, and it's like, if you're being objective, the pure snake in that picture is the better snake,
Mm,
and everybody's all excited about that, and I'm devastated because I'm like, That's an amazing example. And over the history of this hobby, a lot of the most amazing examples of these wild snakes have been never bred to what they are. They've
Yeah.
only been bred to, you know,
It's,
other
it seems
species.
almost, from what I know about it, it doesn't even seem as to breed true. Like, if you have an albino or whatever, that's going to breed true, with your heteros. But with this sort of breeding they're doing with the designer stuff, it doesn't even, you don't get the results out. The snake might look amazing, and then you might produce a lot of green snakes, which is not their choice. And like you were saying with the lineage side of things, why wouldn't it just be the same to do the same lineage and the same selective breeding you're doing with the pure stuff? Do you think it just because it takes longer, or they get, like you were saying there, they get the craziest looking designer snake and then breed it to the best looking pure snake in the hope to make something? Does
Yeah,
that
well, the
correlate?
sad part is that they usually aren't even using the best looking designer. That's what my point of that was. Often, or most of the time, the pure animal looked way more cool than the
Yeah,
quote unquote designer they were breeding it to. So that's why it would break my heart. I'm like, man, that's an amazing, you know, full white stripe Maroke. Like, so,
okay.
I'm
About
trying,
that.
man. I'm trying. But
That's right. I get you some lessons with the wife.
yeah, so it's I don't know. That just makes me sad that that happens. But
And I
you
mean,
know,
completely each their own. I bred carpet python mutts for many years, and I was into it, and I enjoyed it, and it was cool to me at the time. But I think when you come out the other side of it, you've just potentially lost that. And Indonesia's always on the edge of stuff being banned, and other countries not wanting stuff to come in from wherever it is. So it's like, and even some of the localities we probably had before, we've probably lost over here now, unless, and I've said it before, unless we go out and get legal found in stock, you know, some of these localities are lost to us,
yeah.
even here.
Well, we kind of got, in essence, COVID was a bit of a scare for what could
Hmm.
happen. There was the all the hype with the wet market and the animal
Yep.
trade, and you could have a knee jerk reaction where countries just say, "Man, we're no animals, just
Yeah.
nothing."
Yeah.
And then if they did that, it's like, well, now there is no more. Like
Yeah.
we're basically living that with the retics. There's
Yeah, of
very
course.
few
Yeah,
pure, the pure retics are few and, I don't know if they're few and far between, but they're not readily common. And then, but the morph hybrid, you can get those all day. So it's just kind of, you realize the precarious, rope you're potentially walking on. And it may never happen. And then, we just keep doing this forever, or it could get taken away.
yeah,
And so it's just
yeah,
kind of,
yeah,
it's, you got a little taste of it, and it was like, wow. And then prices went up, and the demand went up, and scarcity. Imports just don't come in like they did.
hmm
There's just, I mean, it used to be you could get a list, and there'd be 15 different localities on there, and everything was readily available, and it was relatively cheap. And
yeah,
now stuff comes in, and it's like it's spoken for already, or it's not, you
yeah,
know.
for sure.
So
Yeah, it's
it's a
crazy.
different
That
world.
was a big focus here, was obviously the retics, and we've got stuff here that you would dream about in the States for sure. Like some of these, Bachan localities and Coyotes and Corompas. I mean, the price of Corompas went through the roof in the States. We can. I was telling the owner here, he's like, "Oh my god, geez, I would have
Yep.
liked to have. I've liked to be able to sell them for that." We're stuck with them now because America was the biggest market, and then yeah, we've got a room full of retics that it's pretty hard to get rid of.
Yeah, and
So
that, in some ways, that's really sad that being America and being one of the largest, if not the largest consumer, that we're affecting Indonesia's ability to make, use its natural resources in a manner in which they deem fit. And
yeah,
that's kind of, and we do that with the ESA. We list other countries' animals on our Endangered Species Act, and that's totally ridiculous because
yeah,
we basically tell another country your animals can't be sold here, and there's no,
yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
just, and it doesn't really fix anything because if the unfortunately humans don't do prohibition very well, and the more you tell us we can't do something, the sad part is the more we want to do it, and the
yeah,
greater lengths at which we would go to do it.
yeah,
And you see it, we can't have plowshare tortoises in this country, and that did nothing to protect them in Madagascar. In fact, it just put a bullseye on them.
yeah.
So if they,
Arowana, you're not allowed
yeah,
in there. Say we went to an amazing arowana farm. It's like really legit. They did everything, and like yeah, it's a really good sustainable trade for them. They captive breed them and everything. It's like yeah, the states. I don't know if it's just the states that won't let them in, but yeah, they yeah, I think they ship them to other parts of Asia. So these
yeah, they ship
amazing.
them all over. They ship them to Canada. They can have
They do.
80 miles north of me. They can have red arowanas, but we can't.
Yeah, yeah. That was a mad one. It's like just to
Yeah.
see, how it affects this other stuff. Yeah, this ESA thing is. Have they ever been after any pythons yet? The monitors seem to be their focus. They're just trying to do
Yeah,
the same.
there's the Meloris. Indian pythons are on the ESA.
Oh shit! Right.
And I think it was because something to do with India just told us everything from our country is endangered.
Oh yeah.
So like every species of Indian turtle, I think, is on there. It had something to do with that. I don't know the particulars,
Yeah.
but that's what a lot of their turtles are on there, and their python is on there. Which, I mean, it's retarded that their python is on our Endangered Species Act, but
Yeah. Yeah. It just shows how quickly. I mean, that's not even like a CITES regulation or like you know, a ban. That's just America, which is just stopping it. And it comes through pretty quick. I've had all that problem with the blue tree monitors over the last couple of years. I was like, whoa, where's this coming? This is coming to me. It coming quick, and then they were banned for a long time. Even state commerce, while they were trying to sort it out, which has an effect on you
yeah.
guys, and then it obviously had an effect on us being able to export to America as well. It's pretty scary how quickly this sort of stuff can come in.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just don't think that's right for us to tell. If that country wants to use its natural resources in that manner, that shouldn't be up to us to decide. That
Yeah,
should
it's
be
more
up to
like a
them to
CITES.
sort out.
Yeah, it's like a CITES issue really, rather than an American issue
Yep.
of doing stuff, and it comes down to what, like you said, what the actual country believes is right as well. Do you know what I mean? We've got big checks on all the stuff here now. They've really increased it from pressure from other governments and CITES. And they're like, yeah, that's fair. We'll audit everything and push that up a lot more, which we welcome. But
Yeah.
yeah, just for America to go, yeah, and then not even do the research. That was the worst thing about it. I mean, you've been to Patan, and we were just saying before, of just
Yeah.
like,
No, I don't. After being there and seeing it, I don't think you could collect all those monitors if you tried.
no, and it's not a small island as well. It looks small on a map, but when you get up to it, you wouldn't want to walk it. You know what I mean?
No,
It's
I mean it was like where we were at in that relatively flat area was okay, but
yeah,
you could see you couldn't go very many places before it started getting at a 45-degree angle real quick.
yeah. I just don't think they should be to be able to do it until they've done some sort of study there. That was my big argument with the blue trees. It's like, okay, this is way preempted. Like everyone would be up for it. If you went over there and did a study, and it did prove, a really legitimate study with everyone involved, some Indonesian scientists and some, American, whoever it wants to be, to collaborate, and they really did find that the population density was low, then it's like, okay, we've got the proof there. But to be working off just hearsay and information from 20 years ago was scary to see. That's sort
Yeah,
of my
well,
point.
and the sad part about that though is there's stuff that should be up to Indonesia. Indonesia should be able to say, okay, we understand that the farms have this founder population, so we're going to let that continue, but no more coming off the island.
Yeah,
So
there is no quota. This is exactly what they've got. So there's no
yeah,
quota for any of the tree monitor, no wild caught quota, but there's captive bred quota. But and they've sort of protected themselves in a way there. So if there was any sort of laundering going on or anything, they've also limited the captive bred quota. It's not like I can breed
yeah,
1,000 of anything, and so it's still a very low number. So they've thought about everything, which is a good system. And then
yeah.
I
No,
think
but the point is, it should be their system. They should
yes,
get to
yeah,
decide.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like, and then if you really wanted to do it, I suppose like they do with the turtles, like bringing a minimum size was my thought to them, which they were just like, oh yeah, we can't police that, we can't do that. I was like, oh, I think you do it for other stuff. Like Europe, for example, is 15 centimeters snout to vent length, which means they have to be a baby, which means
Yeah.
you have to breed them over here. You're not going to find many babies in the wild. Seems like a good way of doing it, but America just wasn't up
Well,
for
and
it.
the weird thing is, like, they're captive bred tree monitors kind of have a look. Like
Yeah,
they don't look. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it, but you can look at a tree monitor and pretty much tell if it was a wild one or a captive bred one.
yeah. I
And
wouldn't
so,
I wouldn't trust the guys in customs to maybe make
yeah,
that
yeah, I
that.
understand that, but I'm just saying,
If
like,
they had a ruler, they can definitely go. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, no, that's a better way to do it. But the problem with that is because I think California has some rules about that for some of their native snakes that they
right.
have to sell them before they get to a certain size. But
Yeah,
that's kind of a tricky thing too. Like, what happens if nobody buys it? You know, what do you do? What do you do there?
yeah,
And it
yeah,
gets too
yeah.
big.
Yeah, that's sort of what happens here. It
Well,
just
I've
turns.
seen that people I know that were exporting stuff from the United States. It takes a long time to get permits in the states for a lot of stuff, and you
Yeah,
have to tell them how big it is. And then if your paperwork takes 6 months, then they got a problem because the animal's not as it was described 6 months ago.
yeah. No, we've run into that a lot. I have to keep getting the tape measure out and sending stuff to Europe. It's like, well, it was at the time of these CITES. You guys, when we were ready to export it, our export, we got a bit of a different problem in Europe where they need import CITES as well as our export ones, which takes even longer. So, well,
Yeah.
these were under 15 centimeters then, and yeah, no. If it's over 15 centimeters, it's not allowed. So
Yeah, the
I
reality is the problem is the people that get to make the rules don't know anything about the game they're ruling over is unfortunately the problem.
yeah, I don't know. It will never be someone like us in the office, unfortunately. So what
No,
can we
well the
do?
reality is I don't think we would be I don't think we could hack it.
No, I don't think we want to be in.
We're not built for that life.
So what species is on going back to this list thing because it intrigues me. I've actually started making my own list now of Indonesian monitors.
Nice. I
'Cause I'm
like that.
inspired by you.
Oh, well you're
But
going up the Python list too. You're racking up some Pythons.
yeah, they're bycatch for me at the moment. They're not the focus, but yeah, that would be cool to do some more Python. There's just too much here, mate, to focus on it all, as you know from being here. But yeah,
Yep.
I've got a long way to go on the old Python list. God knows what I'd be at. A lot of the carpets and some Antaresia and a few Indonesian stuff now. But
Yep.
what's the main focus this year to tick one off the list?
Like if I'm talking wet dream would probably be Halmahera pythons. That would be I mean, I would that's kind of my white whale, The
Yeah,
I've probably not. I mean, I don't say this like bragging about it. I've probably lost more of those than any python I've ever kept.
right.
They've been harder for me to keep than anything as far as long term. I had a female ovulate and die once, so I've gotten close, but
Yeah,
it it seems like I get a good animal, like I'll have a good male for a long time, and by the time I get a good female, then the male goes bad, and then vice versa. It's rare. I think
what
only
what's the main
once.
what's the main issues you run into? Them just going off food or
Yeah, well, when I first started getting them, we were only getting big imports, and they
yeah,
just didn't, they just really didn't adapt well to captivity, or at least back then, the conditions I was keeping them, they didn't love. I think I've learned a lot. I'm better at keeping them than I used to be for sure. But having an adult male that's in good shape and an adult female that's in good shape at the same time has just been the one time I had it before, I almost got a clutch. And
yeah.
so I've got one pair right now that are going through the motions. So we'll see what happens.
Do you actually enjoy keeping those, or is that one you're gonna tick off and move on? Do you think?
Man, if I ever had babies of those, it'd be really hard for me to sell them all. Cause
You just raise them up.
yeah, it is. Cause I had a real young one once, a wild an import that was real young, and it just was a different animal. It looked so much nicer, and
Yeah,
just so that's probably a lifer one for me. But
yeah. Any other species you might be able to do this year?
I mean, I'm still trying to do roughies. I'd love to
Roughies,
check
cool.
that box.
Yeah.
Maybe bull and I don't know. We'll see. So it just too early to tell.
Keep all the fingers crossed. Um, what's your um, what's your species you want to see herping wise? I know you probably got a little list of those as you're a list guy. What's top of
Oh,
the
dude,
list?
every python, if any python is good for me. I'm
Yeah,
down. Um, yeah, any chondro. I love finding chondros. I'd really like to see a popwin, southern white lip.
yeah,
I mean, look, we had that trip we did was just come on, that was
it's very good.
ridiculous. We got
Yeah,
I mean, we saw everything you could have possibly wanted to see except one thing, and that's
yeah, literally. Yeah, I
yeah,
never had as good as that for the amount of species. It was just insane. I think if we stayed for another week, we probably could have got the Papuan as well. Do you know what
yeah.
I mean?
So it's just it's just I can't. It's so hard to fathom how great that was that it that's a special thing, and so anything I haven't seen I'd obviously want to see, and as much as MJ gives me shit, a chondro definitely was high on my list. I for whatever reason the point I was trying to make was we had
Yeah,
had such an
it didn't come.
amazing trip that I could
Yeah,
live with the results of not finding a chondro is
and
what I
the
was trying
focus
to say.
and the
But
focus was heavily on finding
yeah,
a tree python.
yeah,
It's
you were
like
there. I
no,
wanted a chondro. It was no joke. So
yeah, no. We searched for chondros harder than we did anything else.
yeah,
That's so that and that was the one we really wanted to go. And it was almost we in the process finding every other single thing apart from the chondro. It sort of made it like
yeah,
it was. Oh, the way we found it on the last night was just insane. I think you can't get better than that. I've been to Australia and looked for some monitor species and walked up to the first rock and gone, oh, there it is. There's like it's still cool, obviously, but it's like when there's a real story to it and a real, when you have to work hard for it, it feels a lot better. And you were stoked. Yeah, like you were pissed with me because I'd fucking gone all the way up to the top of that mountain.
yeah. Well, I
I
had to
was
leave the damn thing.
yeah,
I can't believe I did that. I was like,
I walked straight. Well, the annoying thing, I must have walked straight past it.
well,
Literally,
I
must
don't
have.
think it probably wasn't down yet. You probably
Yeah,
walked right by, and it was still
I was
10 feet higher.
going
So.
pretty quick. Yeah, I was not coming off that mountain until we found one. So I was
Oh,
stoked. I was
dude,
stoked.
I was prepared to sleep out there that night. I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
just
me
do
too.
what it took.
That's what I mean. So when MJ saying, "Oh yeah, you weren't bothered," we were stoked, and you
No,
especially.
like I said, my point was okay. We saw a crocodile monitor,
Yeah,
so at that moment, I was like, if I saw nothing else this trip, I got
yeah,
nothing to complain about. Was basically my point. We saw the
yeah,
chupacabra, we saw the fucking
yeah,
Bigfoot. Like
yeah,
you're after that, it was like we were working on house money. So
yeah. But it
that was
was.
kind of the moment where it was like, oh shit, are you kidding me? We saw
Oh no,
fucking croc monitor.
that's like trip. That's a successful trip. When there's not many times you can do that really either. With finding a species like that. Maybe if it's your main target, but that's not like even something you can really target as the crocodile monitors. So to see one is fantastic. But yeah, we put so much effort into to chondros. Same with Brian on the last trip we went to Missoula. Mate, you would have loved that. The amount of scrub pythons that were dropping out the trees was insane. They were just like they were everywhere in the camp, absolutely everywhere. These scrub pythons, and then for again green tree pythons. Just like I did the same thing. Like trekked so far, going on what Dan says. Natush of like just like trekking through it. And it's like I'm sure there's not even any there, and I covered some ground. I pissed everyone off again because I was just like, I'm going. If I do enough miles, one will turn up. But yeah, we found one on a buttress route, mate. I don't know if you've seen the pictures.
Yeah,
It's like in the most swampy. Like the more I look for those things, the more I'm like, I don't really have a
they turn
clue.
up wherever.
Yeah, I was saying to Brian, it's like we're never gonna. Everybody's, sod's law. was like, we're never going to find, this is the habitat for crocodiles, not for fucking green tree pythons. Like these mangrove roots, really sloppy.
Didn't you say
And then,
one time you were in Mosul there was chondros everywhere? You said, or you saw quite a
yeah,
few.
before. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
think
just whatever. You like, I went to
pretty,
Iron Range and we didn't see one because it
yeah,
hadn't rained in like 3 weeks or something. But
yeah, they're pretty. I mean, that was just in the village. It was, I think it must have been baby season when I went. It was pretty crappy for everything else. I think that was June. And the tree monitors were really hard to find because it was raining so much, but they just kept bringing me baby chondros that they would just find in the village. I was like, oh, this is insane. But no, this spot we went for like I said, we found one on a buttress route, which was just like, oh my god, they can just be anywhere then in this all this
yeah,
swampy stuff. And then, mate, the amount of scrubs, like Nat was fine. Nat found one, I found one, big ones, small ones, they were everywhere. So that was pretty cool.
heck yeah. No, I mean, I personally, it's almost more fun when you have to when it doesn't come easy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I know if I ever find an ompelly in the wild, I'll, after trying as much as I've tried, it'll mean a great deal to me. So
Yeah. Again, need to get up there with Gavin, mate, and go to the Arnhem land side. I think they're probably everywhere.
yeah, no, I was fortunate. I gotta go with Peter Krause. That was
Oh yeah,
amazing,
that's
amazing
cool. That's like,
experience and relive, his trips and so it's been like 3 trips or 4 trips, something like that, and good friends. My friend trying to find one and amazing experiences and the ups and downs. We saw one in a cave but couldn't get to it the way it was, and I only got to see about 18 inches of it. And that was like I think one of the
you're not
first
counting
nights.
that.
No, no, we didn't get our hands on it, so we count like the
Right.
first night, and then just never again. So
Yeah, and you
it's
can be lucky with them. Again, I know a few people have just walked up on them just in the
yeah,
car
yeah. I
park.
mean, it just but at
So,
least now, if I find one now, I'm gonna be there'll probably be a whole flood of emotions that come out of me because
yeah,
I've probably put more effort if you count mileage getting there than just about anything
yeah,
I've ever looked for. So
that's number one. Do you think that'll be it, or is
I
there
don't know.
other
I don't know
species?
if it's number. There's just more of a personal thing there with me and my friend, and the connection with Peter and those other trips. And there was an aspect of looking for a painting that Peter had seen a long time ago.
Oh, nice.
So it's less of a herp thing and more just a personal thing that we were trying to do and accomplish. And so basically, my buddy and me, Adam, when we go, he's like, I don't even know if I could go look for these things without you because if I found one, it would be horrible that you
Yeah,
weren't
yeah, yeah,
here.
yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. Tricky. They've made it pretty hard to find them up there as well. From what I went back. I went there looking for monitors, and I was waiting at the gates, waiting to get in to go looking for monitors at first thing in the morning. So those
uh,
areas that people were turning them up now is pretty
yeah,
difficult
they've
to,
definitely made it more difficult for
and
sure.
that's just for herpers. There's no other
Yep.
reason to really do that.
Yeah.
So it's had a knock on effect. I mean,
But
it's
yeah,
such a
so I
special place
love,
as well.
I like the challenge. It doesn't bother me. I have a great time whether I find the target or not. So.
Yeah. But you were excited for the chondros, and that is a focus. So
Oh yeah, no, you
there
you
we go.
saw you got to witness it.
Yeah,
So.
well, I was more happy like you come and found me, and I was like, "You've got one." I was like, "Why are you up here then?" He's like, "We wanted to come and get you." I was like, "I don't care. I've seen them before. Like you guys have to experience when I come back down, and you were sprinting back down." I was like, "Ryan, it'll be there. They don't move. They're pretty boring. It's going to be set up on that tree." And then to see you guys like almost see it again and having the same elation of finding one was
Oh
yeah, it
yeah,
was
no,
fun.
that was an amazing. Never forget. I just posted a picture of it yesterday.
Yeah, I
So
see. Yeah,
I was
so
like,
good.
oh man, yeah, it's the
Right.
screensaver on my computer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's good. So we'll wrap it up there, mate. But obviously, gonna have to end with a really important question.
All right.
When are you going to start keeping monitors again?
Oh man, I love monitors, dude. I kept a lot. I've not a lot. I've had a few monitors over the years, um, and the tree monitor complex is my favorite. I definitely definitely want to have those in my future again, but I think I've got to get, knowing myself, I need to limit. I have to get less snakes, and once I'm to the point where I can have less snakes because I've accomplished certain goals, then I'll
Yeah.
be able to, play with
Yeah, it's
play
just
with
a lot
toys.
more work, especially if you want to do,
Yeah,
do that herping that we're doing at the moment. It's just a lot. Yeah, it's not
yeah. I
like
really enjoy traveling and going herping, and it
yeah,
wouldn't be fair to my wife to have a large monitor collection that
yeah, for
she had to
sure.
deal with.
My
So
mum can attest to that. Back in the UK, when I used to drop off, and there's all these monitor lizards, they need a lot of food, a lot of.
yeah.
So. Okay, mate. Do you want to give yourself a plug? Oh, the show you're doing with MJ is really cool as well, mate. With Patrick as well. That's
No, I
really
appreciate
important.
that.
I don't know what the name of that show is. It's monthly, isn't it?
Yeah, we do it once a month. Yeah, I don't know if it has a specific name. It's just a locality discussion or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's all.
So
Hopefully that will inspire some people. Some of those pictures, those arrows and stuff. You got MJ going. That's got to be a captive one, or I can't remember what he was saying. It's like, no. That's
yeah, no, I like.
that
Look,
one.
I love a Rue Chondros. So it would be
Really
cool
nice.
to see one of those in the wild someday.
Yeah. When's the What's the next one on? Pulture next, or
Yeah, Poulter's
uh,
next. We did a little out of order. We should have done Viridis first and then Azuria, but oh
yeah.
well. I don't make the
There we go.
rules.
This is what it is, mate. I'm enjoying every one of them. So a big shout out to you and Patrick and MJ for putting them together. That's right up my street. Shout any of your socials, and people pretty much probably know where to
Yep,
find you.
just molecularreptile.com for the website, and then there's Facebook Molecular Reptile and Instagram Molecular Reptile, and then I think my Ryan Young Instagram and Facebook. I think it all pops up. So I've never
Awesome.
looked for myself, so I don't know what it takes.
Yeah, probably, there's me and you saying, "Oh yeah, we're really easy to find." It's like, where is this guy? Sweet. Okay, mate. I'll chat to you afterwards. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Hope you enjoyed that. Something a bit different. But we'll catch you next time.
Take care.